The history of Marvellous Melbourne is deeply tied to its natural heritage. Its location is a direct result of the volcanic activity in Victoria's southwest from about 2 million years ago until the present day. There are more than 400 volcanoes between Melbourne and the South Australian border. The lava from ongoing eruptions solidified to form the grey basalt stone known as bluestone, widely used for building throughout Victoria and Melbourne. The city of Melbourne was established by a group of European colonisers in Tasmania led by John Batman. They called themselves the Port Phillip Association. Seeking land to raise sheep, this group was particularly drawn to the grasslands west of Port Phillip. John Batman had previously visited Victoria and observed what he considered the best grasslands for sheep he had ever seen. Meanwhile, the Surveyor-General of New South Wales, Major Thomas Mitchell, came overland from Sydney and also came across lush grasslands in Western Victoria. These plain grasslands were rapidly occupied by settlers scrambling for land to raise sheep for Mother England and to make their fortunes, rapidly pushing Aboriginal people off their ancestral land in the process. Assisted by mounted police, settlers used brute force to keep the Kulin people off their newly stolen pastures. This destructive activity led to the development of the City of Melbourne and set in place some of the early businesses and buildings that are now part of our foundation history. Yet what these early invaders and settlers didn't know at the time was that these lush grasslands had been established because of the rich soil that had broken down from the volcanic rock from the numerous volcanoes across the landscape. Such grasslands were cultivated and maintained through ancient techniques of fire farming, developed and refined for millennia by the local Aboriginal tribes. The volcanic grasslands of Victoria to the west of Melbourne had evolved into a unique ecosystem of specialised grasses and flowers of all kinds, like lilies, daisies and orchids, with a wide range of birds, insects and soft-footed animals, all occupying the land. Some early explorers even described these landscapes as flowerlands rather than grasslands. The defining factor that led to the occupation of these lands was that they were considered perfect for raising sheep, and the grassland areas of Victoria were aggressively taken over within about 10 years of the first arrival of John Batman in Victoria. In the process, vast areas of grasslands were substantially destroyed or altered by European agricultural practices. In this sense, the dispossession of Aboriginal land went hand in hand with environmental degradation. This is the founding industry of the history of Melbourne. The introduction of millions of hard-hooved sheep trampling the landscape was also the biggest contributor to the destruction of this unique and ancient ecosystem, as well as those complex human relationships developed to maintain the land. These days, there are a great number of groups, organisations and individuals working hard to try and reclaim some of the ecosystems that our so-called founding fathers destroyed in their efforts to make a living, to make their fortunes and turn the land into a productive resource as they saw it at the time. There is less than 1% of the original ecosystem structure in place, and that is struggling to survive. The destruction of what remains continues today through urban expansion with a lack of adequate protection. The original ecosystems of the grasslands or flowerlands of Melbourne and Victoria are the natural heritage of all Victorians. These days, the priority is to reclaim a legacy that most Melburnians do not know well.